level across the top. What's up and welcome to the channel. My name is Headshot and thank you guys for joining us. Before we start the video, I want to let you guys know a couple things here really quick. When it comes to striker fire guns, there are no two bigger names than Glock and Smith & Wesson. We just heard that there is a new Gen 5 Glock coming out very soon. So before that gun hits the market, I wanted to get this review in. The new Smith & Wesson, the new M&P M2.0 versus the Glock 19 Gen 4. I understand that this one is a little bit dated, but I wanted to make sure before that new one comes to the table, let's see how these two pistols stack up against each other. And then when the new one comes out, we'll do it again and see if Glock has pushed the bar on their innovation. So I just want to let you guys know that really quick. That's why we're doing this video. I think these guns are more comparable than what is normally compared to the Glock 19, which is the compact version of this. So let's go ahead and take a look at these two pistols, see which one is better now, and in a couple months we'll see which one is better then. So hopefully you guys enjoy the video, and make sure you guys subscribe, like, and all the awesome stuff you guys do for us on a consistent basis. Thank you for the support and enjoy the video. What's up and welcome to the channel. My name is Headshot and thank you guys for joining us for our comparison on the new M&P 2.0 or M2.0. Kind of new, it's been out for a while now, and the Glock 19 Gen 4. Most people, when I see them compare a gun in the M&P class to the Glock 19, most people will do the M&P 9 compact, or the M&P compact I should say. To me, these two are more on plane with each other. Keep in mind the M&P M2.0 is a full-size gun. Glock considers the 19 a compact. It's really a small full size, but pretty much they're pretty much in line with each other. So that's the way we're going to compare them. We're going to talk about everything from out of the box, pros and cons on each. We're of course going to do some shooting and show you how they shoot and handle recoil and all that good stuff. At the end of it, I'm just going to tell you which one I think will give you the best bang for your buck, which one I like the best. Me and Mrs. Headshot, both of our opinions are going into this. So let's go ahead and open them up. We'll show you what comes with the M&P real quick. All right, you of course get a hard case, foam padding, paperwork, lock, all that is pretty standard. You're going to get the gun. They still have these oil wrapped papers, which just kind of add a nice little touch to it, I think. You have the gun, two 17-round magazines. All right, you're gonna get an additional 3 back straps with the gun. All right, so you have small, medium, large, these with beaver tails, and then your other magazine. So we'll go ahead and take the gun out, get the box out of the way, show you what comes with the Glock 19. This of course is a Gen 4, and I don't know if you guys seen the news, but supposedly a Gen 5 is coming sometime next month. We're in August 2017 right now, so really looking forward to Glock's new pistol. Paperwork, lock, all of that. This is the MOS version. All right, it doesn't really change anything that much, to be honest with you. I have my optic on here. So the MOS is going to come with the different plates, so you can mount different optics to this. But just in its base configuration, 3 15-round magazines, so you're already one up from the M&P. You're going to get a rod with a cleaning brush. The brush isn't in here, but it does come with it. And then you're going to get additional back straps with this one as well, actually 4, and you have some with the beaver tail as well. So let's get this one out of the box. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about specs here really quick, and then I'll show you the size difference between the two pistols. Starting with the M&P, the unloaded weight is 24.7 ounces. The width is right at 1.2 inches. The barrel length is 4 1/4. The overall length is 7.4, and the overall height is around 5 1/4 inches. I didn't find that measurement on Smith & Wesson's website. I'm sure it's out there somewhere, but I just kind of took a rough measurement of the width and the height on the Glock. 23.65 ounces. All right, so it is a little bit lighter. The width on the Glock is 1.1 inches. The barrel length is 4 inches exactly. The overall length on the Glock is 7.2 inches. And the height is 4.99 inches, so right at 5 inches. Showing you what they look like side by side, and this is kind of why I say you can't go off of what the manufacturer says on how they designate the pistols for compact, you know, all that kind of stuff. Because if you look at them slide to slide, they are pretty close. You can tell the M&P is just a little bit longer. All right, overall width, the M&P is just a little bit wider. All right, so I took the optic off to show you what they look like on their backs. Now the Glock has 15 round magazines and the M&P has 17. So you have a good, you know, almost an inch there, probably 3/4 of an inch difference in height. So it's kind of like pick your poison. You want 2 more rounds, or do you want to save that little bit of height? If you're thinking about concealed carry, obviously the Glock 19 and that little bit of shorter grip is going to be a better option. If you're looking at the range or things like that, the M&P is going to be a better option. But overall, like I said, they consider this a compact. M&P knows it's the full-size gun. They are very close in dimensions. Features, let's go ahead and talk about that. The new M&P M2.0 has revamped the entire line, starting with the grip texture. Now you have this really rough type of texturing, and it does a great job of keeping the gun locked into your hand. This Headshot finds it uncomfortable after extended use, but I think it is definitely more of a benefit all the way around. It really helps lock this gun into your hands, especially when you start sweating on days like today. That comes in handy. You have front and rear slide serrations now. Not that the front ones do you much justice at all. Aesthetically, it looks pretty cool, but if you get your thumbs down there, you could do your press checks, and it does give you a little bit of a bite. But other than that, you know, it's pretty much just aesthetics. You'll see this cut out in the frame right here. This is something I missed on the original review, but what they've done is they've actually reinforced the frame on these M&Ps now, so you have less flex whenever you're firing on all that kind of stuff. It's designed to make sure that this frame is absolutely solid under pressure and all of that kind of stuff. So they've done some nice changes. The biggest one to me is the trigger though, and we'll talk about that after we show you some shooting here in a little bit. Other side of the pistol, you do have your slide stop on this side, and you can reverse your magazine release. All right, so that's a good thing. To remove your back straps, all you got to do is turn this, pull this little pin out, and then the back straps are just going to slide right off of there. So pretty easy. This tool, you can also use it to pull down your little tab right there, and that allows you to take the gun down without pulling the trigger if you wanted to. They kept that feature in the new M2.0, so let's go ahead and slide this back in here. Otherwise, takedown notch, slide stop, your slide serrations, you still have that fish scale style serration, and these do a great job biting into your hand so you can actually rack that slide. Loaded chamber viewport up here, steel sights from the factory dovetailed in. There's your sight picture, really big white dots, and the sights on this gun, they're not the best, but from the factory, this is definitely a better option than what comes on the Glock with the drop in the bucket type of sights they give you. Extractor, everything else is pretty standard. You have your pick rail up here. So that is the new M2.0 Gen 4 Glock. This is the newest Glock we have right now. There are some other variants, the M version and all that kind of stuff, but mostly by and large the Glocks have been the same. On the Gen 4 though, it does come with 3 magazines, oversized magazine release. You do have your slide stop only on the left hand side of the gun, but the magazine release is reversible on the Gen 4, which is great. We talked about the magazines. If you want to change out the back strap, basically what you're going to be doing is just adding to this configuration. You'll punch that little pin out, you'll slide the new one into the channel and put your pin back in. The Glock proprietary rail system, most people make attachments for the Glock, so that's not a problem at all. What I did is I put the suppressor height Trijicon night sights on this one, kind of blacked out in the rear, with the white dot in the front, and their night sights as well, so that's pretty awesome. And then obviously this looks a little bit different because I have that optic off, but there's normally a cover plate that goes over that if you don't have an optic on there. And then on the new Glocks, on the Gen 4 I should say, you have these little pyramids all the way around, and it's a little bit slicker than the M&P, no doubt about that, but it does a pretty decent job of keeping the gun locked into your hand. One big difference you'll tell right here is you have these finger grooves. A lot of people don't like them. Me personally, I don't have a big issue with them. My fingers kind of fall right in line with them, so I prefer not to have them, but again, it's just a personal preference type of deal. I prefer this right here where it's just flat, but you know, most people, I guess, learn to deal with that, even though it seems like a lot of people really don't like it. High undercut up under the trigger guard, squared off trigger guard. So the way the two pistols come, you know, to you whenever you look at them, the M&P is a little bit busier. A lot of things going on with it. The Glock is more subtle, a little bit more simple in its approach, but that's something that a lot of people like about the Glock design, and that's something I like about it as well. But the M&P, everything kind of makes sense. There's not too much going on, and you know, all the features really do a nice job. One thing I didn't talk about on the M&P, your magazine release. All right, the magazines don't really pop out you know, really quickly. They don't have that really like springy action like a lot of pistols do, but they come out just fine, and they come out better than the Glock. The polymer on polymer seems to slow. There you go. I was just talking about it. There it is. It seems to slow down that magazine really falling out. So I've gotten in the habit with any Glock I'm shooting, I'll just come in and just grab it right out, or you can, you know, kind of, you know, rattle it out of there, I guess. But you know, other than that, everything works fine on both pistols. I've had both of these for a while now, and no hiccups or anything like that on either one of them. So let's go ahead and talk about the breakdown, and then we will show you guys how these things shoot. On the Glock, you want to make sure it's clear. Pull the trigger, cheat back on the slide, pull down on your tabs, and there you go. The M&P, you can do it the same way we talked about before. You can take your little tool, dig down in there, pull that little tab down, and then the slide, once you rotate this down, the slide will just come off, or you can just pull the trigger. So that's what we're going to do. Rotate that down, let the slide go home, pull your trigger, and there you go. Single captive recoil spring, steel guide rod, and there's your barrel. On the Glock, dual captive guide rod, polymer, and there's your barrel. All right, striker block, all that good stuff. Here's your striker block here. Looks very familiar. One thing about it is Glock kind of started this whole, you know, striker block and striker fire guns. They didn't start it from the very beginning. That was HK's design, but they have definitely are the most copied platform when it comes to this. Here's your rails right here, and on the M&P, your rails. You see how much beefier your rails are on the M&P. And that's one thing about it too. Everybody says that Glock is, you know, the innovator and all this kind of stuff, which, you know, like I said, they took away from, you know, HK's original striker fire design, or I shouldn't say they took away from it, but they weren't the first to do it. But although the Glock has been copied quite a bit, I feel like a lot of manufacturers have kind of outdone them in recent years. That's just my opinion, but we will definitely see with the new Gen 5 version. But I definitely wanted to get this review done before we see what kind of new gun comes to the table. We'll revisit this entire video. I don't have a problem doing that at all. But before the new generation comes out, want to kind of compare the newest Glock that we have to the newest M&P that's on the market. So, all right, so let's put the M&P back together and get to some shooting. So there you go, really easy to break down, easy to clean and all of that. Let's go ahead and show you guys how they shoot, and then we will talk about pros and cons. We'll show you the triggers and which one we like the best. We'll see you guys in a minute. All right, so hopefully you guys enjoyed that. We were looking through the optic on the Glock 19. We were just using the regular sights. The Burst Fastfire 3, it does a decent enough job, but I just don't, it's a really small piece of glass that you're looking through, and I just don't really like it that much, to be honest with you guys. It does a fine job for the price, but not my favorite optic, all right? But otherwise, both the guns shoot amazing. I don't know if you picked up on it, but the M&P were just a lot more consistent with this gun. Maybe it's the size, maybe it's the trigger, maybe it's the sights, I don't know, but definitely more consistent with the M&P. But let's go ahead and show you what these triggers look like on the Glock. Safe action design, dingus in the middle. You're going to come to a wall, a little bit of creep, and then it breaks, reset, very audible and tactile, and the weight on it, £4 12 ounces. It's a little bit light. Let's try it again. 4 pounds 14 ounces. Normally it's right at 5 pounds, so it's actually not that light. 4 pounds 12 ounces. Very good trigger on the Glock. Nothing wrong with it at all. I don't see any need to change the Glock trigger. On the M&P, This is a huge design change that they did on the new M&Ps, because the old ones, they got better over time, but man, they started out bad. You still have this hinged design trigger, so if you pull from the top, you ain't getting no bang. You got to pull directly in the middle of the trigger. I don't see why that would be a problem for anybody anyways, but it is their form of a safe action design. Really sharp hook, I guess you know, really sharp design on this one. The shield is a little bit more flat face. I like that better than this sharp hook. I wish they would have got away with that, but there's plenty of aftermarket designs. But if you decide to stay with this trigger, let me show you. You come to the wall, and it breaks. And it is such a smooth break. And one thing all of the original M&P fans were missing, reset. And it's audible, it's tactile, and that snap, I'm telling you, this is an awesome trigger that they've done. I would, you know, you can kind of tell as it's going through the break that it kind of flattens out there anyway, so it's not a big deal that you got that sharp kind of HK type of hook. But man, they've done a great job on this trigger. As far as the weight, it's going to be heavier than the Glock, but it doesn't feel it. 5 pounds 12 ounces. It's just a very smooth trigger is what you're going to notice if you 5 pounds 12 ounces. So it's coming up a pound heavier than the Glock, but like I said, it does not feel it at all. As far as recoil, both guns do amazing. A little bit more weight, a little bit bigger size here, so you might notice if you're a newer shooter or even an experienced shooter, you might notice that this is a little bit more flat shooting. Both of them sit, you know, pretty low in your hand. That's never been an issue for me, but just, you know, a lot of people talk about bore axis and stuff like that. Both of them sit pretty low in your hand anyways. Not a lot of recoil to speak of. They're both in 9, which is my favorite caliber for sure. And I think they do a fantastic job. If you want a gun that runs, these are going to be 2 brands that you do not want to skip out on for sure, because they kind of, I don't want to say they own the striker fire market, but these are probably the 2 biggest names in the you know, definitely in the firearms industry, but definitely in the striker fire market as well. Pros and cons, let's go ahead and do it. Let's start with the M&P. As far as pros, this new grip texture is amazing. If you want a gun that is going to stay locked into your hand, this grip texturing, if I could have this on all my guns, I definitely would. It's fantastic. The trigger on the new M&P, I don't see a need to replace this at all. It does a fantastic job. Compared to each other, the sights on the M&P are light years above the original sights on the Glock. That's why I change them on most of my Glocks anyways. Also, a big one is the price. You know, I've seen the new M&Ps as low as $425, $450, so already coming out of the gate $100 cheaper than the Glock, and in this case it was almost $150 cheaper because this is the MOS version. So if you're looking to save some money, lifetime warranty. One thing I didn't talk about as well is stainless steel sliding barrel with that Armor Knight finish on the M&P. This is just an amazing buy all the way around. Very well-known company. Smith & Wesson sent this one to us a while back, and I really don't want to send it back. I'm gonna be honest with you. I really love this gun. To me, it's just awesome. A lot of great features for an amazing price. On the Glock, again, this is like your do-it-all type of pistol. It's small enough to kind of be a concealed carry for, I guess, a lot of people. For me, it's just a little bit too big for everyday carry, but overall, it's a great size. You're going to be getting a gun that has 1 extra magazine, so that's, you know, $40 right there. The changes they made on the Gen 4, I really like them. Oversized magazine release. The texturing on the grip needs a little bit of work, but it's not bad. But overall, this gun continues to run. It continues to fire every time we pull the trigger, it seems like. I don't want to stick to that and say it's absolutely perfect, because every gun has an issue at least at some point, but these guns have both been very reliable. Feels good in the hand, shoots good. This is one of the favorites whenever we bring it out to the range with friends or anything. Everybody seems to really like this gun, flat shooting and all of that. Cons on the Glock, you have that sight issue. So if you don't like the original sights, that's an extra cost right there. So you're already $100 more, depending on which version you go with. It might be more, maybe a little less. And then you're going to have to buy you a set of sights. All right, so the rest of the cons are really, because we're comparing these guns, you know, normally the cons I'm going to talk about wouldn't be cons, but compared to each other, there will be some cons that might sound a little bit weird, but I'll kind of explain them as I'm going. The biggest one for me on the Glock is this magazine release issue that we seem to have from time to time. It's just not as responsive as the M&P, and I don't really like that. I like my magazines to pop out and get out of there so I can get a fresh one in. Slide stop is a little bit smaller than M&P, not a problem there though. The grip texture compared to the M&P is not nearly as rough enough as what I like. Whenever you start shooting and sweating and all that, you can feel this slipping around and readjusting your hands a little bit for sure. And to be honest with you, I don't think the trigger is as good as the M&P. Now, most of the time, you know, anytime we've ever done a Glock versus M&P, the Glock kind of wins it hands down, but in this case, it does not. I think the M&P has a sharper, more consistent trigger, and I like the one on the M&P better. Also, for left-handed shooters, you do not have your slide stop on the right-hand side of the gun, so that is a con as well. The finger grooves, compared to the Glock, I don't have a problem with them, but compared to the M&P, I like the flat design personally myself. And then there's a double-edged coin with the 15-round magazine. It's a con because you have to reload a little bit more, 2 more rounds, not a big deal, but it's also a big deal inside the waistband. So that's a double-edged sword. I just want to point it out both ways, so you guys get an idea of where I'm coming from. And then cons on the M&P. You know, regular cons, you know, you don't have a high of an undercut as you do on the Glock. There's really not a lot to speak of. I mean, the gun is fantastic for the price you get it at. You know, it's just an awesome gun. I mean, all the changes that people wanted, they listened, they did it. You know, maybe, you know, if we're kind of just coming up with some, the slide stop isn't as responsive as the Glock. So if you want to drop this slide, you know, good luck with that. This one is kind of stiff, if you want to do it like that. Otherwise, you know that we will look at everything from a non-fanboy perspective. But when it comes to compared to the Glock in any kind of way, I just don't see that many cons with the M&P. Again, if you're carrying it inside the waistband, that little bit of grip length is going to make a big difference. So it just depends on what you're going to be using these pistols for. But overall, which one we like better and which one offers you the biggest bang for your buck? M&P. I mean, I'm sure most of you guys have probably guessed that by now. It just offers you so much more. And with the old generation of M&Ps, you had to go out and replace your trigger. Well, that's a big cost when you compare the guns, you know, to each other and all of that. But now the M&P, it comes with steel sights, it comes with a better trigger and all of that. So you're saving yourself a lot of money going with the M&P versus the Glock in what I consider a better platform. Now, I wasn't planning on buying this gun just because, you know, we've done a lot of work with it. I kind of feel like it, you know, we've done enough work with it, so I could probably send this back. But with the release of the new Glock coming out, and I really want to revisit this video again, I think we're going to hold on to this pistol because there's going to be a lot of cool videos we can do in the future once that Gen 5 comes out. And I also want to be fair to the Glock because this is a little bit dated design now. You're talking about this has been out for what, 6, 7, 8 years, whatever it's been. So we definitely want to come back to the table and see what Glock has come up with. See if they've kind of pushed the bar as far as innovation. But right now, I think this is the best bang for your buck compared to each other. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Thank you for all the support. We will see you in the next one. And as always, hold 'em down.